While I work on the next Pokemon Type Wild Deluxe video, I wanted to cover the latest update to Close Combat, a fan-made Pokemon fighting game I looked at last month as part of Indie Fighting Game Month. When I made that video, Close Combat had just introduced Mienshao as its latest fighter. This left Kalos as the only generation of the first 7 to not have a fighter representing it. That changed in the version 4 update. The game's creators said that this Pokemon took a lot more effort to animate than any other. After having some time with it, I can see why. Version 4 added Chesnaught to the roster, and with it also came Chespin. Chespin rides on Chesnaught's back during the fight, along with being part of one of its special moves. Hitting the special button in neutral will have Chesnaught tossing a berry up for Chespin to eat. Hitting the button again has Chespin using Bullet Seed. It's a fun-looking tool on a very interesting fighter. Chesnaught is the second Pokemon in the game to have charge moves, but unlike Heracross, Chesnaught's of the slower bend of charge characters, having a variety of defensive options to balance that out. This includes Spiky Shield, which works as a dash block on the ground, and also makes Chesnaught the only Pokemon that can block while jumping. Additionally, Chesnaught has the highest guard gauge in the game. The guard gauge determines how many hits a blocking fighter can take before their guard breaks. Different attacks do different amounts of guard damage, and different Pokemon have different guard gauge amounts. The speedy Mienshao has the lowest guard gauge in the game at 8, while Chesnaught has the highest at 16. But don't think Chesnaught is some slow lug that can't go wild on offense. The game's universal mechanics offer you a lot of room to explore combo routes with any style of character, especially if you have meter, and Chesnaught is no exception. But Chesnaught isn't even the coolest Pokemon this update adds. Along with a new fighter, version 4 also adds a training mode to Close Combat, and with it comes Wobbuffet as the mode's default dummy. In the space below the battle where your opponent's profile picture normally would be, Wobbuffet instead has 3 options. The first controls its movement, whether you want it to just stand there, always be blocking, or want it jumping. The second option controls what attack it performs. It defaults to doing nothing, but has 4 other options: a fast attack, a slow attack, a fireball, and a Shoryuken, which changes to a dive kick if its movement option is set to any of the jumps. The last option is when Wobbuffet will do the attack or movement, either always on a continuous loop, or only after you've knocked it down. This no-budget fan-made Pokemon fighting game just introduced a genius solution to one of the biggest issues in fighting games. That being, the record function in these games is borderline inaccessible to new players. With Wobbuffet, Close Combat gives a very basic look at how that problem can be solved with drop-down menus. Having this generic fighter with generic options is a great beginner tool, letting a new player test out basic properties extremely quickly. I wanted to see if Chesnaught's charge tackle could go through projectiles, so I went into training mode and had Wobbuffet throw fireballs at me. It took less than a minute for me to find an answer to my question in-game without having to screw around with arcade mode. I didn't have to time up anything, or even know the input for Wobbuffet's attacks to accomplish this. The Wobbuffet attack options let you set up basic training tools very quickly. Want to work on ways to punish whiffed Shoryukens? All you have to do is tap one key on your keyboard to have that up and running. This is such a good beginner training mode tool, and I would love to see fighting games with actual budgets behind them take this idea and expand upon it. Let the players create chains of commands for the dummy character by connecting moves together on a timeline, with advanced options like inserting delay times and micro dashes. So much of getting better at fighting games comes down to situational awareness, recognizing a situation and reacting accordingly. This Wobbuffet tool makes it so much easier for new players to set up the situations they want to work on reacting to and find solutions on their own. That's a big aspect of learning in a solo environment that seems lost on fighting games. Tutorials are fine and all, but fighting games have struggled to create tools that promote and allow for quick, independent learning. Most new players have no idea what to do in training mode beyond practicing combos. Wobbuffet as a tool is the perfect gateway for them to see different angles of training mode. They're going to make Wobbuffet do attacks once they see that it can, and that seamlessly leads into them trying to figure out what they should do in response. This is what fighting games should be after when it comes to new players, rewarding their curiosity by having tools that let them easily find answers to their questions without having to leave the game. I didn't expect this video to talk so much about game design, but I really love what Close Combat did here. A generic dummy fighter with actions tied to a drop-down menu was a great idea, and I'm interested to see where the game goes from here. Not just with new characters, but potentially new modes as well, given how well the training mode turned out. If you'd like to check out the game, I've left a link to its Discord in the pinned comment, along with the question of the video. What Pokemon would you like to see added to Close Combat next? I believe they said they're only doing fighting type Pokemon, so I'm going to say Terrakion. I'd love to see how they'd implement a Pokemon that walks on 4 legs. If you enjoyed this video, check out some of my other stuff. My latest video is on the left. You can subscribe to this channel by hitting the icon in the middle, and you can watch all of my Pokemon videos in the playlist on the right. You can also follow me on Twitter at GoLower. Anyways, peace.